remember the day I stood in front of my own house. Well, the house I thought was mine, and watched a strange woman drag her box inside as if she owned everything. Her hips were swinging like she was in a fashion show, and my husband, the man I had lived with for 40 years, held her hand proudly like a trophy. And do you know the worst part? He looked at me straight in the eye and said, "Margaret, I sold the property. You have no rights here anymore." Sold the property. Our property. The house I cleaned, painted, scrubbed, and prayed inside for 4 decades. I felt like the ground opened under me. I didn't know when my legs became weak. I didn't know when my wrapper slipped. I didn't know when people started gathering, whispering, "Ah," after 40 years. But what truly broke me, what truly shattered the last piece of my heart was when that woman, with long fake eyelashes and red lipstick that looked like she painted her whole mouth, pointed at me and said, "Old woman, move out of the way. I am the new wife." New wife. My husband. At his age. Marrying another woman behind my back. Before I could speak, before I could even breathe properly, the truth started unfolding, bit by bit. And it was not small truth. It was a truth that shook the whole community. And that day, God exposed him. In a way nobody expected. But before we get there, let me take you back. Because stories like mine do not start in one day. They start small, tiny, until they grow like a stubborn plant you ignored. Let me tell you how it all began. My name is Margaret, but everyone in the neighborhood calls me Grandma Maggie. I am 72 years old, but don't let my age deceive you. My legs still move fast when something annoys me. In fact, my granddaughter likes to joke that I walk like a soldier when I am angry. I met my husband, Richard, when I was just 20 years old. He was tall, handsome, with a smile that could melt butter on a cold day. Back then, I thought he was the answer to every prayer. I used to follow him around like a chicken following grains. If he laughed, I laughed. If he coughed, I brought water. If he said he was hungry, I cooked for 7 people. Love can make you foolish. We married, had 3 children, and worked hard, of course. When I say hard, I mean real hard. There were days we ate only bread and tea because all the money went into building our first house. I sold vegetables, sewed clothes, and even baked cakes for children's birthdays, all to support him. I believed in our marriage, I believed in loyalty, and I believed in Richard. Or so I thought. The signs started showing slowly, like rain that begins with tiny drops. The first sign came on a Tuesday morning. I remember because I had just made him fried eggs and toasted bread. He took one bite, dropped the fork, looked at me strangely and said, "Why is the food salty?" Me. Salt. I measured salt with my ancestors' precision. I laughed and said, Richard, it's not salty. Taste it again." He pushed the plate away and said something that pricked my heart. Maybe I am tired of the same wife taste. Same wife taste. I thought maybe he was stressed. After all, work can make a man say nonsense. The next sign came a month later. He suddenly started dressing like he was 25. He bought new shirts, tight shirts. Shirts that showed his chest like he was competing with young boys on social media. He sprayed perfume everywhere. Even the bed smelled like a perfume shop. When I asked him why, he said, "A man should take care of himself." But I knew something was off. Still, I kept quiet. Sometimes silence is not wisdom. Sometimes silence is the rope you tie around your own neck. Then one day, while arranging his clothes, I saw a small paper in his pocket. A yellow paper with tiny writing. I almost didn't open it, but my spirit pushed me. And when I opened it, the paper said, "Meet me at 4 p.m. I miss you." No name. Just a perfume smell on the paper. A perfume smell I did not own. My heart beat loud boom, boom like a drum at a festival. I sat down. I breathed. I tried to tell myself maybe it was from work. Maybe someone inside the office dropped it by mistake. Maybe it was a joke. But deep down I knew. Women always know. I confronted Richard that evening. He looked at me with the calmness of an angel and said, "It's nothing, don't stress yourself." But the truth, He had already started planning what would later break my world apart. For 40 long years, I stood by him. I cooked his meals, washed his clothes, cared for his mother, and even took loans to help him when he lost his job. I became his pillar, but pillars crack when the weight becomes too much. Then came the day everything changed. Richard started going out more, staying out late, leaving his phone face down, smiling at messages, even humming love songs. Imagine a 74-year-old man humming love songs. If not that heartbreak is serious matter, I would have laughed. One night he didn't come home at all. I waited. I prayed. I walked around the compound like a lost goat. When he finally entered the house at 6 a.m., he had the boldness, the confidence, the audacity to say, "Do not question me. I am a man." A man. Is that how a man behaves? Still, I tried to keep peace, because at my age, fighting is not sweet. Knees will start shaking. Back will start complaining. But peace did not stay long. One afternoon, I saw a strange woman near our gate. She was young, maybe 45, but dressed like she was 20. Long nails, high heels that could break her ankle, and a wig that looked like a lion's mane. She smiled at me with small insult in her eyes and said, "Good afternoon, Ma. I'm looking for Richard." Richard. My Richard. I asked her calmly, "For what?" She smiled more and said, "I am close to him." Close? Close how? Close where? Before I could ask more, she walked away with confidence, as if she came to greet her in-law. My heart did not rest that day. Little did I know things were about to get worse, much worse. Because 2 weeks after that, while I was at the market buying tomatoes, someone called my name loudly. "Mama Maggie, come home now, something is happening." I rushed home, panting, sweating, praying nothing bad had happened to my children. But when I reached the house, the shock that greeted me was the one that almost removed my soul from my body. Richard was standing in front of our house, holding a paper, smiling like a mad person in love. And beside him was that same wig-wearing woman. He introduced her as his new wife. He told everyone he had married her secretly. And the final blow. He announced publicly, before neighbors, strangers, even children playing outside, that he had sold our property, the house we built together, the house I used my sweat to support. Sold it. Behind my back. And before I could speak, before I could even hold my tears, a man walked forward holding documents and said, "I am the new owner of this house." My mouth opened. No words came out. Sound disappeared from my ears. Everything felt slow, like my spirit left my body and came back. People shouted. Women held their heads. Children stopped playing. It was as if the sky turned dark. But that moment, that public disgrace, that wickedness he planned for me, was the same moment God began to expose him. Because, as the new owner tried to read the document aloud, the entire compound fell silent when the new owner tried to read the paper again. His hands were shaking, his lips moving slowly, and his eyebrows folding like someone who just found something shocking inside a pot of soup. Then he raised his head and stared straight at Richard. "Sir, these papers, something is wrong here." People started murmuring. Richard's new wife shifted uncomfortably in her tight dress. Even her long wig seemed confused as it tilted to one side. "What do you mean something is wrong?" Richard barked. "Read it well." The new owner removed his glasses, cleaned them, wore them again, and squinted at the document. Then he said the words that made everyone freeze. This signature on page 3, it doesn't match the signature on page 1 or page 2. One of the signatures is fake." Fake? People shouted, "Ah." Some women held their chest. One man even dropped his phone. Richard's eyes opened wide. "Fake? How can it be fake? I signed it myself," he said loudly, but his voice was shaky. That was when the new owner looked at him again, this time suspiciously. "Sir, the signature on this document belongs to a man named Raymond, not Richard." Raymond. Who is Raymond? Even I, in my pain, looked around. I have been married to Richard for 40 years. I know his name. I know his handwriting. I know his angry face, his hungry face, even his guilty face. But I did not know any Raymond. The new wife tapped Richard's arm. "Honey, what is happening?" she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Honey," someone in the crowd repeated mockingly. Children giggled. Richard swallowed hard. "Give me the document," he said quickly. But before he could grab it, the new owner pulled it away and said, "No, something is off. I need to verify this with the land office." And just like that, everyone's attention turned from me to them. People started whispering. That means he might have sold the house illegally. Maybe he forged something. So after 40 years, he wants to cheat his wife and still cheat the buyer. This one, God is already working. But Richard, instead of keeping quiet, started shouting like a man who just discovered hot pepper in his eyes. "Nobody will move from here. That house belongs to me. I can do what I want." I stood there watching him. The man I once adored. The man I cooked for. The man I defended. The man I loved with all my heart. He looked like a stranger. But the embarrassment was not finished. Because at that very moment, a police truck entered the street. Yes, police. Real police, with uniforms, boots, and the kind of walking style that says, "We did not come to joke." The crowd scattered like ants. Everyone started shouting, "Police! Police have come!" Richard's new wife held her head and shouted, "What is happening?" Even her lipstick looked confused. One police officer stepped down and asked loudly, "Who is Mr. Richard?" Richard raised his hand slowly. "I am." The officer brought out a paper. "We received a report concerning property fraud and illegal sale. We need you to come with us for questioning." The crowd screamed, God has exposed him." Richard started shaking. "Officer, it's a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything." But the officer grabbed his arm gently but firmly. Then, to complete the embarrassment, Richard's trousers started slipping because the belt was loose. People laughed. Children pointed. Someone even said, "Grandpa, tighten your belt before you enter jail-o." If not for my heartbreak, I might have laughed too. But I just stood there, quiet, watching everything unfold. Richard looked at me with a mixture of fear, shame, and anger. As if I was the one who brought the police. As if I was the one who pushed him into this mess. But his new wife. She started crying fake tears. "Officer, please, don't take him. He is my husband." Someone in the crowd whispered loudly, "Which husband? You just arrived here." Another woman added, "My dear, enjoy your honeymoon in the police station." Even the officer tried not to laugh. But the biggest shock came next. As they were escorting Richard to the truck, the new owner suddenly shouted, "Wait, I know this man. I remember him now." Everyone turned. The man pointed at Richard and said, "This is the same man who tried to sell me another land last year using a different name. I didn't buy it because the papers looked suspicious. This means he has been doing this for long." People gasped. I felt my knees shake. 40 years. 40 long years. I trusted him. I supported him. I believed he was honest. But now, I could see everything clearly. Richard had not changed last month. Richard had not changed 2 years ago. Richard had been changing slowly, secretly behind my back for a long time. The police officer sighed and said, "Sir, this case is bigger than we thought. You need to follow us now." The wig-wearing woman tried to run after them, but her heels betrayed her. She fell, wig twisted to the back of her head. Children screamed with laughter. Even the police officer helped her up while hiding his smile. And in all the noise, all the chaos, all the shock, I found myself standing alone. I had lost my home. I had lost my husband. I had lost 40 years of peace. But even in that darkness, I felt something strange. A small whisper in my heart saying, Margaret, you will rise again. People gathered around me, comforting me, asking me where I would sleep, offering me food, asking if I needed help. I thanked them, but my mind was far away. That night, I slept on my daughter's couch. My legs ached. My back hurt. But my heart was the one that pained me the most. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the years I wasted. All the sacrifices. All the love I gave freely. But as I began to drift off to sleep, something happened. Something that shook me again. A phone call came in. Not a normal one. Not a friendly one. A phone call that carried another big truth. A truth that was waiting for me on the other side. A truth about Richard. And about that new woman. And about the property. The moment I pressed the green button, the voice on the other end said, "Madam Margaret, there is something you must know. It's about your husband, and it cannot wait." My heart froze. When I answered the call, my hands were shaking so much that the phone almost slipped. I pressed it against my ear and whispered, "Hello, who is this?" The voice came again, deep, serious, and a little worried. "Madam Margaret, this is Officer Thomas from the district police station. Please don't panic. I just need you to come here first thing tomorrow morning. It is about your husband and also about the woman he married." My mouth went dry. "Officer, what happened? Is he okay?" There was silence, then he said, "Ma, it's better you hear it in person." Before I could ask more questions, the call ended. I stared at the phone for almost a full minute, trying to understand what was going on. My daughter, Sarah, came out from the kitchen with a cup of warm tea. "Mama, who called you? Why do you look like you saw a ghost?" I swallowed hard. It was the police. Sarah nearly dropped the cup. "Mama, what have they done to you again?" "Not me," I said slowly. "It's about your father." Her face changed. Her mouth tightened. She sat beside me and took my hand. "Mama, what is happening? That man has disgraced us enough." I sighed deeply. "I don't know, my child, but they asked me to come to the station tomorrow." Sarah didn't argue. She simply nodded, placed the tea on the table, and said, "You will not go alone, I will follow you." The next morning, we arrived at the station. The air was cold, and I was praying silently that whatever news they wanted to tell me would not crush my heart more than it had already been crushed. Officer Thomas came out and greeted us. He looked serious, with eyes that told me the matter was not small. He led us into a small office. There in the corner of the room sat Richard, my husband of 40 years, looking weak, tired, and older than I had ever seen him. His shirt was wrinkled, his face swollen from stress, and his hair stood like he had fought with thunder. The moment he saw me, he looked away. My heart squeezed, but I didn't speak. I didn't greet him, I just sat. Officer Thomas closed the door and placed a file on the table. "Madam Margaret," he began, "there is something we discovered while investigating the documents your husband used to sell the house." I looked up slowly. He continued, "Your husband didn't just forge a signature. He used 2 different names in 2 different property transactions. One of the names belongs to a man who has been on our watch list for years. We believe your husband has been working with someone dangerous." I blinked, shocked. Working with who? Officer Thomas opened the file and pushed a photo across the table. When I looked at the picture, my chest tightened. It was the same woman, the one with the long wig, the one who claimed she was the new wife, the one who entered my home like a queen claiming her throne. Sarah gasped, "Mama, that's her." Officer Thomas nodded. "Yes, her real name is not the name she told your husband. She is involved in several fraud cases. Different men, different houses, different scams." My head began spinning. So all along, Richard thought he was enjoying love. Meanwhile, the woman was enjoying his money. Officer Thomas continued. "She and her group target older men who own property. They pretend to be in love, push them to sell property, and then disappear after collecting money. But this time, we caught her earlier than expected." I tried to wrap my mind around it. So the woman wasn't in love with him. She wasn't even interested in marriage. She was using him. Sarah whispered, "Mama, this is serious." Officer Thomas sighed. "We believe she pushed your husband to sell the house quickly, and your husband, thinking he was making a smart decision, signed documents without knowing he was being trapped." I sat back, breathing slowly. I felt anger. I felt pity. I felt shame. I felt everything mixed together. Richard finally spoke, his voice small and shaky. "Maggie, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. She told me she loved me. She told me I deserved better, that you didn't care for me anymore. I was foolish." I didn't answer. He lowered his head, tears falling. "I know I betrayed you. I know I broke our home. But please believe me when I say she blinded me. I thought I still had time to feel young again. I thought I still had something to prove." I shifted uncomfortably. "Richard, why did you do it? Why did you sell our house?" He covered his face. "I thought she would marry me properly after I sold the house. She said she didn't want to live in a place you built. She said she wanted a fresh start." I stared at him, speechless. He continued, "She tricked me. She made me believe you were the reason my life was empty. She made me think I deserved better." Sarah hissed, "Better? Daddy, you had the best woman. Mama served you for 40 years. Richard's shoulders shook. Officer Thomas waited for the room to settle before adding, "We have another problem." I froze. "Another?" He opened another file. "The woman is missing. She escaped last night." "What?" Sarah stood immediately. "Yes," Officer Thomas said. "The officer guarding her said she attracted his attention with fake fainting, and before he knew it, she was gone." I shook my head slowly. "So, she escaped with the money?" He nodded. "Everything." The office fell silent. Richard covered his face again, shaking, sobbing quietly. "Maggie, I have nothing left. Nothing. I lost everything. I lost you. I lost the house. I lost my money. That woman used me." For a moment, I felt something soften in my heart. Not love, not forgiveness, just sadness. Sadness for a man who threw away 40 years for a stranger with a wig that looked like it had its own electricity. Officer Thomas then said something that shocked me again. "Ma, we found something in the documents. Something important for you." "For me?" He nodded and pulled out another document. "This house, the one your husband tried to sell, it was originally registered in both your names years ago. Your signature was forged. That means legally, your husband did not have the right to sell the house without your consent." My eyes widened. Sarah gasped. "Wait, so the house is still ours?" Officer Thomas nodded. "Yes, the sale is invalid. The buyer will get back his money from the fraud account. You, Madam Margaret, still legally own the house." My breath caught. The house. My house. The house I built with sweat. The house he tried to take from me. Was still mine. "Thank you, God," I whispered. But the moment I smiled, another officer rushed in breathlessly. "Sir, we have a new development." Officer Thomas stood. "What is it?" The officer pointed at Richard and said, "We just discovered the woman, the one who ran away. She used your husband's identity to commit another crime. And now the people she scammed are looking for him. They think he was part of it." My heart dropped. Richard's face lost all color. The officer added, "They are dangerous men, sir. They know where he lives, and they are coming." I felt my heart race. The room became hot. Sarah grabbed my hand. "What does that mean?" I whispered. The officer answered quietly. "It means your husband's life is now in danger." And that terrifying moment. When the officer said those words, "Your husband's life is now in danger," I felt the ground shift under me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Sarah looked at me with wide eyes, squeezing my hand so tight that my fingers went numb. Richard, the man who betrayed me, the man who sold our house, the man who married another woman behind my back. Now, his life was in danger. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, fear, pity, justice. Everything mixed together like a pot of confused soup. Officer Thomas stepped closer. Madam, we are not saying this to scare you, but we must be honest. Those men are already asking questions around your street. They think your husband helped the woman scam them. They believe he knows where she is. Richard swallowed hard, his eyes blinking fast. Officer, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know she was involved in anything like that. The officer sighed. Sir, we believe you, but criminals don't care. My heart beat faster. I turned to him slowly. Richard, where is that woman now? Did she tell you anyone she was working with? He shook his head. No, she never shared anything. She always kept her phone hidden. She only called people in secret. I thought it was normal. He stopped and covered his face again. I watched him quietly. This man destroyed everything I built. He took my love for granted. He disgraced me in front of the whole community. He pushed me aside like I was a cloth that had faded. But seeing him now, he looked like someone who had finally seen the truth, but too late. Officer Thomas continued, Madam, we're advising you to stay somewhere safe for now. And sir, he turned to Richard, we need to move you to a secure location. Those men are not playing. Sarah snapped, so they want to hide Daddy after everything he caused. Officer Thomas smiled sadly. Ma'am, whether he hurt you or not, we still have to protect his life. That is our job. Sarah sighed deeply, folding her arms. I closed my eyes for a moment. A long moment. I remembered the beginning of our marriage. The long walks. The laughter. The days we shared one plate of food and still felt full because our love was enough. The nights we prayed together, thanking God for small victories. Then I remembered the last years. The distance. The disrespect. The secret phone calls. The lies. It hurt. But I could not wish death on him. Not after 40 years. Not after everything we built, even if he later destroyed it. I opened my eyes and spoke quietly. Officer, please protect him. Sarah turned sharply. Mama. I squeezed her hand gently. He is still your father. She shook her head. Mama, he hurt you so badly. I know, I said softly, but if he dies like this, it will haunt me forever. Let them protect him. Richard lifted his head slowly, tears rolling down. Maggie, I don't deserve your kindness. I didn't answer. Because truly, he didn't. But kindness is never about deserving. It is about who you are inside. The officers escorted Richard out quietly, putting him in a secure vehicle. As he entered, he turned back one last time. Maggie, forgive me if you can. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day. I didn't speak. He bowed his head and the door closed. We left the station and returned to Sarah's house. My legs were shaking from all the stress. My heart was tired. My mind was full. Sarah made me a bowl of warm porridge, but my appetite had disappeared. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. After a long silence, Sarah said, Mama, are you okay? I nodded slowly. I'm just thinking. About Daddy. Yes, I whispered. Do you still love him? She asked quietly. I closed my eyes. I don't know, I replied honestly. Maybe I love the man he used to be, not the man he became. Sarah sighed and leaned on my shoulder. Mama, he lost everything. That is already punishment. I nodded. Yes, and God has exposed everything he did. I don't need to fight him. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in many days. The next morning, I woke up to a loud banging on the door. Sarah jumped up. Who is that? The banging continued. Open this door, we need help. Sarah and I ran to the door. When we opened it was Officer Thomas, sweating heavily, breathing hard. Madam Margaret, I need you to come with me immediately. My heart almost fell out of my chest. What happened? He paused, catching his breath. It's your husband. Something happened at the safe house. My legs weakened. Sarah grabbed my arm. Officer, what happened? Is he alive? Officer Thomas nodded. Yes, he's alive, but the men found him. I nearly fainted. He continued, we fought them off. One of them escaped, the others were captured. But your husband, he asked to see you. See me, I whispered. Yes, he said there is something he must confess to you before anything happens. A cold chill ran through my body. Confess what? Officer Thomas shook his head. He refused to tell us. He said it's for your ears only. My heart pounded so loudly that I could hear it echo. Sarah held my hand tightly. Mama, don't go if you're scared. But I straightened slowly. Fear or no fear. This final conversation was necessary. I nodded. Take me to him. We entered the car and drove fast, the sirens screaming through the morning air. When we reached the safe house, the place was full of police officers and flashing lights. They led me inside a quiet room. There he was. Richard. He was lying on a bed, bandaged, breathing heavily. He looked smaller, weaker, broken. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. Maggie, he whispered. I walked closer, trembling. Richard, I'm here. He reached for my hand with shaky fingers. Maggie, before anything happens to me, I need to tell you the truth, the full truth. My heart stopped. He swallowed painfully, took a breath, and said, 40 years ago, before we got married, I hid something from you, something that caused everything that happened today. My eyes widened. What did you hide? Tears rolled down his cheeks as he whispered the words that would shake me. Words that would explain everything. Words that would end this story with the truth I never saw coming. Maggie, the woman who scammed me, she is connected to my past. I knew her before I married you. My breath froze. I stared at him in shock. Connected to his past. He continued, voice shaking. She is not just a scammer. She is not just a stranger. She is not just a woman who tricked me. Richard closed his eyes tightly, then opened them again. Maggie, that woman is the daughter I never told you about. I gasped loudly. Sarah screamed, what? And that, earth-shaking, shocking revelation, was the final truth. The truth God exposed. The truth behind everything. The truth that ended the 40-year circle of betrayal. Thanks for watching. Kindly drop your comment about this story. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.